Hello and welcome to my presentation on Top Girls by Carol Churchill. I will mainly focus on the historical context and the challenges for a modern audience. So, Top Girls, as I said, was written by Carol Churchill, who is a British playwright, mainly known for her feminist, political and experimental theatre. It premiered on the 28th of August in 1982 at the Royal Court Theatre in London and was directed by Max Stafford Clark. The play explores themes of feminism and power and gender and makes comments on the political state of the 80s. The play follows a woman called Marlene, who is our protagonist. In the first act, we see a dinner party with historical and mythological women to congratulate Marlene in her job promotion. The second and third acts then focus on her work and personal life and how her choices and the society around her has affected them. The social and political climate of the late 70s and early 80s. So in the late 70s, the social climate of the UK had been marked by a decade of social and political unrest. In the 70s, we saw high inflation, about 25%. There was a lot of trade union strikes. So in 1972, there was the coal miner strikes, and in 1979, there was the winter of discontent. Late 70s, there was a lot of unemployment, so at 5.7%, and then in 1980, it rose to 10.7%. In 1979, we had our first female Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher, who focused on neoliberal economics and individualist ideas. In the early 80s, she pushed for privatisation, such as privatising British Gas and British Railway, and she reduced trade union powers following the strikes in the 70s and reduced public spending as well as tax. And the economy grew a lot, but so did social and regional inequality. Women within the 80s. So in the 80s, we were in second wave feminism, which had started in the 60s and then ended in the late 80s. It focused on structural inequality, legal rights and reproductive rights. We saw more and more women going into work, mainly in clerical jobs or in the service sector, and we saw the term career woman emerge, however not in the same way that we see a career woman today. At that time, they had very low wages, little to no childcare, a lot of discrimination within the workplace, and the glass ceiling was very much a thing for them. They couldn't progress past their male counterparts within their workplace. Churchill wrote Top Girls in reflection of female ambition, and she questioned if women who make it, like Marlene does in Top Girls, can truly succeed without sacrificing their personal lives. The public's response to Top Girls. So the public's response was quite mixed. Many critics praised the play for its quite bold feminist ideas, as well as its structure, so its non-linear structure and the kind of overlapping dialogue that she used. There was a lot of critiques, though, about how she presented Thatcher era ideas of success and the idea to be individual over focusing on community and how that affected women and feminism as well. And however it was critiqued by a lot of people, it was considered quite an important piece and quite impactful and a very proactive piece of theatre, mainly due to its all-female cast, which is great. So the challenges of presenting it to a modern audience. So the main idea, I would say, is how feminism has moved on from second wave feminism to now third wave, and we are also going into fourth wave feminism. Second wave, as I said, focuses mainly on structural inequality, whereas third wave is more inclusive and looks at intersectionality, gender norms, sexuality, and everyday sexism and community, and how we all lift each other up and work together to kind of beat the patriarchy. Another issue is class. In Top Girls, we see a large class divide between Joyce and Marlene. Marlene has distanced herself from the working class and feels ashamed of where she came from. Now, I don't think this would work within a modern day society, or like Joyce would definitely need to be a more developed character, which she wasn't in the original text, because we are told a lot more now to be proud of where we came from and to carry that with us, and be proud of our heritage and where we and how far we've come, pretty much. Another big thing is gender and identity. So Top Girls did challenge gender norms, but it only challenged like stereotypes. Whereas now in the modern day, we have a lot more fluid idea of gender with the transgender community and non-binary people. I think modern audiences would feel that it doesn't push the boundaries as much as it did like in the 80s, because we see a lot of kind of career women now, and it's not like a surprise. It's not something that you're shocked by. Sorry. So another thing that Top Girls lacks is kind of awareness around race, and I think audiences probably would critique this and the lack of diversity when we live in a world now where we look at multiple forms of discrimination, not just discrimination against white women within the workplace. And I think it would need to expand on that and definitely kind of edit the play to include race into that, because it's a massive part of the world and discrimination, and it is also explored so much within politics and society and in the media that if it wasn't within the play, I think audiences would question why it wasn't. Another thing about the play is that the context is so important. It's so deeply rooted within the 80s that without an understanding of Thatcher or second wave feminism, you may misinterpret the political criticism or misunderstand the message that Churchill was trying to convey, which is criticising individualistic feminism, pretty much. Overall, I would probably say that there are many challenges for presenting it to a modern day audiences, because many ideals have changed around feminism and gender and race and class, as well as our politics. However, Top Girls' themes of gender inequality and feminism versus capitalism are still very relevant in the modern day, and the question of what does success cost women is probably more relevant now than it was back in the 80s. The style of the piece is very modern, and the cast is all female, which offers complex characters for actresses in theatre, which kind of lacks at the moment. So, in conclusion, I would say that Top Girls is a fairly groundbreaking play for its time, with its critique on gender roles, ambition, and societal expectations around women. However, I do think it has a lot of things that would need to be edited to present it to a modern audience, with ideas around class and race, and maybe moving on the ideas around feminism and around childcare. I would say that's kind of the main things that we would need to work on and evolve it to fit to our modern day description. The question that I chose to answer was, which single issue do you consider to be the most challenging for a contemporary audience, and why? So I would say that the biggest challenge for a contemporary audience would be Carol Churchill's critique on individualism and a career-driven woman advancing, but at the cost of other women. I'd say this challenges modern audiences because we're used to celebrating women moving forward in any way and viewing that as like inherently positive no matter what. But Marlene, as she kind of moves ahead in the male-dominated Thatcher era workplace that she is in, we think that this kind of celebrates feminist achievement, but as the play continues, Churchill kind of reveals the costs of what Marlene chooses to do. She's had to abandon her child Angie, and she is now estranged from her sister Joyce, and how that all fits in together. I would say this is a big challenge because it makes audiences feel uncomfortable, and it makes us challenge the idea that equality within an unjust system isn't true progress, and makes the audience sit there and kind of think about whether personal progress is better and makes enough social change, or whether actually the only way to have social change is to advance as a whole and as a community. So yeah, I would say that's the main issue and main challenge within Top Girls.